Hello everybody and welcome back to Elderberry Sprout. So today I wanted to show you all of the current magical journals that I am working in. A lot of these you have seen on this channel before, like this one in my Grimoire. I've done lots of videos showing you spreads in here. And I've also done a couple of videos showing you how I make my Book of Shadows and how I use that in my Traveler's Notebook. I'll link some of those videos down below. But there are an assortment of other journals that I use for other purposes that don't fit either of these categories, so let's dive into those. Now let's start in my Grimoire. So this book holds a lot of the lessons that I've learned through journaling in my other journals. Oftentimes that's a condensed lesson, a mantra, some specific knowledge that I've been applying to my life. So more of the spell type thing. So like the mantra, so like an incantation, something specific that works for me. That stuff goes in here. So I'll open that up and show you guys a couple of pages. I did a full flip through of this book, which isn't fully complete yet, but I did a flip through last year and I'm planning on doing another flip through in the next month or so. But in here you can see there's some unfinished pages, but I've got some information about, yeah, like onking, that's a practice I do. Let's see if this is in frame. There we go. Yeah, some like self-worth affirmations, and I'll leave this open on my altar at times to help me focus on these intentions. So this is a really magical book, and oftentimes I get my art witchery fix in through working on this book. So I really love working in this grimoire, and I do plan on showing you guys how I made this because it's a junk journal style grimoire. And you can see it's got some corners, but it was really fun to make and it's really fun to work in because it's low stakes, you know. I can always make another one. It's just made out of junk in the first place. So anyway, it doesn't mean I value it any less though. Things can be made of junk, and you know, what's that saying? One man's trash is another person's treasure. That definitely applies here. So my next journal is this one, and this is my Traveler's Notebook that I have my Book of Shadows in. So right now, I've been changing what I call it. Right now, it looks like it's being called the Book of Mirrors. I go through one of these probably every 2 months or so, depending on how many pages I have. But in here, it's just a signature that I made out of scrap paper. And I will write reflections, so it's kind of like a diary, but it also has things like astrology that's happening at this time. Things that I'm noticing, like patterns, you know, angel numbers that I'm seeing frequently, messages that I feel like are coming to me. Sometimes if I have a tarot card that I pull and I see some relevance of what that card was in my life on that day, I'll write that down in here. And then I can just kind of see patterns over time. Oftentimes I'll also take notes on videos that I watch. So there's videos that have certain information, whether it's about like Tantra or Kundalini energy or transcendental meditation. I'll take notes in here, and then eventually once I develop a firm practice that works for me, that will crystallize, and then I will put that information in my grimoire. So pretty basic, just scrap paper that lives in the front of my Traveler's Notebook. And I'm loving that because I can have it with me all the time. So whenever I have a spare minute, I can think about what's been in my spirit, and then I can write that down there. So the next one, this is my shadow work journal. This, it kind of fills a couple of niches in my life. It oftentimes acts as a bath journal as well, because it was just a basic comp book that I covered with beautiful collaging. And here, I'll show you the spine too. So it says Book of Shadow Work there. It's pretty basic, just a normal old comp book. So I collaged on it and I covered it with tape, so it's like semi-waterproof. I don't think I'll do the tape thing again because the tape is plastic, unfortunately. Hopefully I could look around and try to find like a cellulose-based or a plant-based biodegradable semi-plastic product to do that, to do this with, because that would be amazing. But yeah, so I'll take this in the bath with me, and oftentimes I'll have a prompt that I will reflect on in that bath time, and then I'll be able to write in here with, you know, no stakes, and it doesn't matter if it gets wet. You can see there's some wrinkled pages because it has gotten wet in the past. But this works really well for me, and I like having the low stakes of it just being a comp book. Plus, when I fill them up, comp books are all consistently sized. So once I fill this up and I fill up my other journals, they can all sit in a row on a shelf and be really organized, which, I mean, that doesn't please everybody, really, but it really pleases me. So the fact that it can be organized and like archived properly is really satisfying. So love that shadow workbook. And here I have my Astral Travels book, which is essentially just a dream journal. Sometimes I will astral travel, not super frequently. I haven't been focusing on that a lot recently in my practice, so I've just been having dreams that I write down. And this is my system for, let me show you the front and back of this first. So, stay magical, dream journal, astral travel, and it's funny, this was just a normal old white sheep that I ended up turning into a black sheep with little black curlies and astral dreams. Smile, you're free. I love collaging. It's like one of my favorite mediums. So once again, covered in plastic packing tape. And this journal, I've had this one for quite a while. I put the date and then write down what the dream was. It's pretty basic. I mean, I don't really want to show you any of those because I've had some pretty strange dreams, but essentially I'll start with the date, and on a column in this little column on the side, I'll jot down the main words, because before I move, I will think of what the words are that are like the signal words of different events that happen in the dream, and then I'll like go over them a couple of times, these signal words, and then I'll write those signal words down on this column. And then once those signal words are written down, oftentimes I'll find that it's chronologically backwards. So then when I go about writing what happened, I try to chronologically write the story or whatever events happened, write them down. So I'll do it in reverse order of writing those events down. But I do find that it really helps me to remember my dreams better when I focus on those words ahead of time a couple of times and then I move my body. Because I realize once I start shifting in bed, I feel like that, foggy in between the hedge state tends to dissipate a little bit faster. So that's my system for that. And this one has dreams from like years and years and years ago in it. So had this one for quite a while, but I just love the design on the front of that. Let's see. I also have, this is a new development in my journaling process. Ooh, gonna shine you. Woo! Can't you do SOS or something when you're on land and you're looking for an airplane to rescue you? You use like a mirror to try to contact them. Anyway, this is a book of reflections for my tarot card pulls. I've been trying to do daily tarot card pulls, and this is what I've been recording that in. I can show you the process for that. So let's get in here. So my system so far with my daily tarot card pulls has been the date, the time, what question or focus I have for that pull, because I just pull a single card, and then oftentimes I'll have a focus or a question like, what do I need to know today, or what do I need to focus on, or, what karma can I complete on a day that I have a lot of extra energy? I'm like, okay, how can I complete some karma cycles? And then I get my card, and then I put an R, because before I take my tarot card pull, I decide whether or not I'm going to read it as a reversal or not. I've been just pretty much starting this daily process, so I haven't been really reading reversals too much, because I feel like that's going to be a little over my head for right now. So then I have my intuitional read just based on the card, and I'm working with the Rider-Waite tarot deck, which is pretty easy to get a generic like vibe from the card. So it's been helpful having that nice deck to work with. So I put my little read there, then I go through the Rider-Waite tarot booklet and see what they say there. And then sometimes I'll get to the thoughts portion, or sometimes I will not get to that. Oftentimes I'll come back and write what happened throughout the day, not like a full story, but like a little blurb about like how I see that connection to the card. Or sometimes even I'll get a read after a question that is really specific, and that my thoughts will come immediately after. I'm like, yep, okay, fine, you know how that goes. The card tells you something that you already knew was true and you didn't want to reveal to yourself, and then you're like, fine, and then I blurt down a little bit about that. But that's been working really well for me. That's a good system. So That's that super shiny journal. Then here, one that's been casting a shadow on this whole process is this is essentially my Book of Shadows archive. So I've been doing these signatures in my traveler's notebook for so long that I have a lot of different signatures. And I made this junk journal, which actually I have a video about. It's getting a little dusty in the edges because it's made from really old leather. But I have a video of how I made this process, which I will also link below. And yeah, so I just essentially have all of my different signatures in here. So they're all on elastics there, which were glued to the base spine. The elastics aren't super strong, and I am thinking of replacing them at some point, but I have all of my different Book of Shadows like signatures in here right now. This is the one I just filled up, which was a pretty chonky boy, so I'm going to use less papers next time. But yeah, I have some I guess, words. Oh my gosh. I have some, I guess, ribbons, whatever you want to call them, bookmarks there. And yeah, this was a really old photo album from my great-grandmother. So it has a lot of ancestral energy for me. So I do try to focus on healing ancestral trauma and, you know, breaking cycles of negative thought patterns. So this is kind of like, it's almost like an intention plate. You know, sometimes you have like a book blessing or like a some type of positive affirmation in the front of your book. And this just reminds me, I'm like, okay, right, this is ancestral, you know, ancestral healing of trauma. So anyway, that's that book. It's almost full. I think I have, let's see. Yeah, I have one more elastic here. So once I finish up my signature I'm currently working in, I will make another one of these bad boys. And I made this one roughly the same size as my current Book of Shadows, just because, once again, I want to be able to archive these and have them stack nicely next to each other on a shelf. So you can see they're both junk journal styles, and I like the size of those guys. So those are all my books, but first, before I go on, I want to talk about how I store these books and why I have separate books. So my tarot book lives on my altar, and the reason I don't work my tarot in my normal Book of Shadows is because my Book of Shadows is kind of big, like my traveler's notebook is big, and my altar is really tiny, so I need a tiny little journal to work in for that. This works really well for me because it's small, compact, and I can just keep it on my altar and jot my notes down on tarot as I'm doing those tarot card pulls. And he just lives there on my altar. Now this book lives next to my altar. I have kind of like a magical library next to my altar, so this one lives there. So I'm not constantly referencing it since it's pretty much just an archive. But having this allows for me to keep smaller sections of my Book of Shadows with me at all times so that I don't need to constantly reference or carry around a huge book like this. My Grimoire. This one stays in my craft studio, actually. I've got this little shed that I put together, which is what I'm currently filming in. And this lives out here because oftentimes when I need to do some creative, I don't know, creative either collage work or really synchronize some energies that I've been working with, this is what I work in. So I do that out here. Sometimes if I do need an extra focus, I'll put it on my altar, like I was saying with those affirmation pages open. But for that, I also am thinking about doing an affirmation card ring binder so that I would be able to have different affirmation cards that I can put on my altar. And essentially just make them myself and have a little hole in the corner that I can put them on a ring so I can remove them. That way this would be able to stay in my studio while I also have affirmations on my altar. So, let's see. So now for my dream journal. This one is, it's funny, this one's lived where it's lived for a very long time. So I have a very particular system. I don't know, I feel like I'm a systems person. I love to have a system that works for me and then just use it and run it into the ground until it needs to change. But this has worked for me for a really long time. So first off, I have an empty page before I go to bed. I have to have at least, you know, a big chunk of space to be able to jot stuff down because I'm groggy in the morning and I don't want to have to like futz with turning the page or anything like that. So I have a bulldog clip on the top that has a piece of fabric and a ribbon, and I have a bulldog clip on the bottom to keep it nice and straight. And this way I can tell which is the top and which is the bottom. A little thing that I have trouble with when I'm groggy. And then, let's see. I don't have my pencil with me, but I'll have a mechanical pencil shoved right there. So the mechanical pencil allows for me to always have a sharp thing that I can erase if if it's too illegible, I can clean it up. And I don't need to sharpen a pencil in the morning. So, and this goes in a caddy next to my bed. I've got one, it's made of wool, and it flops over the edge of my bed, and this just fits perfectly in there so I can grab it out, grab the pen, jot everything down, or pencil rather, and do that first thing in the morning. So this is how my dream journal normally looks, which isn't quite as aesthetic as the front, but that's the truth of the matter. So my shadow work journal also has a very particular way that I store this and use it when I'm either in the bath or even just in bed doing some shadow work. I'll have it open to the page that I'm working on. Generally, I'll have a prompt or an idea before I get in the bath that I would write down on here, and then I'll have it on a clipboard to hold it in place nice and flat, because I hate futzing with the, I don't know, it does go like that, so I want to keep it as flat and straight to write on. When I'm in the bath, it just makes it a lot easier. And relative to that, I also write in here in pencil mainly. Not so that I can erase it or anything, just because I don't want my lovely fountain pen to get dropped in the bath. So pencil seems to be a less worrisome writing utensil for me. So this will be generally sitting with a clipboard. I've got this shelf in my bedroom that I leave this on, and then I'll just like grab the clipboard. It's got the pencil in the top of the clipboard, so that I have it all nice and prepped. I have lots of mechanical pencils for that reason. That's interesting. Ideally, I'd like to have like a plastic-free pencil. I don't know. I'll have to brainstorm on that. But anyway, so that's that one. And let's see. And then there's nothing particular about how I keep this journal. It's with me all of the time. And if I'm ever writing in it, I use my fountain pen, which is generally right here. I must have been using it for something. Anyway, I generally use a fountain pen, and it lives in this little slot there. Yeah, so I guess that's all the particular ways that I store and where I go about using these journals. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed a peek into my spiritual practice through seeing what journals I use, because Lord knows, there's a lot of them. And not everybody has this many magical journals, but for some reason I do, and it works really well for me. And I wonder, how many journals do you guys use? Do you have specific places that you use your journals at? Do they live there? Do they go with you everywhere? Do you have I saw a person who had this journaling caddy, which looked amazing. I was like, ooh, what if I put all my journals in there? But they've already got homes at this point. But anyway, I'd love to hear about your guys' journaling process and what types of books you use and where they live. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a magical day. Bye.